Hey, in this episode, we're going to continue discussing the stress model and the two primary emotions. Good evening, Facebook, and welcome to another episode of Post Daily Dose with me, your trusted parenting advisor, faithful guide and servant on the healing journey. What's my name? Big Papa Bryan+Post, baby. I hope everyone has had a fantastic Friday and TGIF and can't wait till Saturday. I hope you had an amazing week and you're capping the week tuning into some Big Papa. So I've got some exciting things to share with you this evening. So the stress model, just to recap, and you can jump one episode back, skip one episode of the Post Daily Dose, and there's two episodes concurrently discussing the stress model if you've missed out on those. So it's very simple. Hey, mama. All behavior arises from a state of stress. All behavior arises from a state of stress. In between the behavior and the stress is the presence of a primary emotion. There are only two primary emotions, love and fear, and that's what we're talking about tonight. It is through the expression, the processing, and the understanding of the fear that you calm the stress and diminish the behavior. And that is the stress model. So far we've talked about behavior. We've talked about stress. Let's talk about the two primary emotions. Before I do that, I want to quote Alan Shore in his book, his seminal text on affect regulation and the origin of the self. In the intro section, in the introduction, he cites Taylor et al. 1998 that it is believed that affect dysregulation is a fundamental mechanism involved in all psychiatric disorders. It is believed that affect dysregulation is a fundamental mechanism involved in all psychiatric disorders. And the Big Papa reframe and rewording and simplification of that is, it is believed that being stressed out is the fundamental reason for all psychological and emotional challenges. And that, because that is exactly the basis of the stress model. So all behavior arises from a state of stress, and between the behavior and the stress is the presence of a primary emotion. There are only two primary emotions. Follow me on this. Your body only knows energy. Your body only knows energy. And in that regard, it only knows emotion. And there are only ultimately two emotions that your body experiences. Love, which is an open, thriving energy, and fear, which is a closed survival energy. Those are the only two states that your body knows. And emotion is broken down to mean energy in motion. So when you become stressed, the energy of your body goes into motion and it generates an energy. And that energy is what sends currents to the rest of your brain, to the rest of your cellular system to make the determination of what you need to do. So when you experience an emotion, your body determines whether it's going to be open, loving, thriving, or whether it's going to be closed, fearful, stress, surviving. So you got thriving and surviving. So then how do you come up with anger and jealousy and mistrust and sadness and frustration and overwhelm and guilt and shame and all these other emotions? All those emotions arise from fear. Those are feelings. Those are not emotions. Those are feelings. It's very important that you understand that feeling chart. And one of these days I'm going to get that feeling chart and go down under each one of them and put fear or love. But those are all feelings, and feelings are cognitive perceptions of an emotion. So it's your brain perceiving an energetic state and then labeling it as a feeling. But all feelings arise from either love or fear. It's so important to see that. So as you go along and you're thinking about the stress model, all the behavior arising from a state of stress, and in between the behavior and stress is a presence of a primary emotion, love or fear. The first thing we're always going to encounter, because the first thing our brains do when we perceive stress is we constrict into survival. That's very important for you to remember, that the moment you move into stress, stress does not cause you to experience love. Stress is the opposite of love. Stress and fear are the opposite of love. Fear is the opposite of love. Love is connected to the hormone oxytocin. Fear is connected to the hormone cortisol. The moment you experience stress, your brain and your body system, which I refer to as the body mind, that's how the late Candace Pert labeled it, moves into your body-mind system, moves into survival and moves into fear. So fear and stress are actually an interchangeable experience in your body-mind system. So the moment you have a reaction, your body immediately moves into stress and fear. So when I say, hey Jill, when I say that child is stressed or that child is scared, and you say, well, what do they have to be stressed about, or what do they have to be afraid about? What I am really speaking to is a neurophysiologic experience. I've done this for long enough to just know certain behaviors and certain feelings, they're just rooted in fear and stress. And the more you look at fear, the more you'll see it. But it's helpful to see it first within yourself. When you can start seeing your own fear and stress, it becomes so much more obvious in other people. So the moment the brain perceives a threat, it moves into a state of stress, which then sends the cellular system into a state of fear. After that, you have a window. You have a window to determine to either stay and feed the fear or to stop. Take 3 to 10 deep breaths, calm yourself down, back away, get present, open your eyes, move around, get grounded, and shift into love. You have that option, but it is secondary. It is secondary. This is so very important. I'm going to break this down for you even further because I think it's really important that you get this part. The moment your body perceives a threat, any threat, remember the last episode before last, we talked about the 8 sensory pathways. Any of the 8 sensory pathways can cause your brain. I mean, I was just making some chicken and dumplings, and just the heat from the stove could have caused, it did raise my stress a little, but not outside of my window of tolerance. It didn't cause me dysregulation, but it could have for someone who's been burnt by something hot before, or someone who's lived in a really hot environment, or sadly enough, some child who as a child got locked in some closet for hours on end and it was really hot. And now they're adults and they're cooking this hot food, and unconsciously they just get overwhelmed and stressed and start acting some kind of way, and no one around them understands why, and they don't even understand why. It's because the body is just taking that on, because remember, the amygdala sits above the brainstem, and as soon as the amygdala gets activated, it starts to stir the brainstem, and your brainstem is where all your trauma is stored. It's also where all your personality traits are stored. So the moment you become stressed, when I talk about you're sensing that threat and your body moves into stress and then into fear, see, your brainstem starts to stir. Now, it just depends on how high that stress level is. If that stress level increases, then it stirs deeper into your brainstem. And the deeper that stress stirs into your brainstem, the closer it gets to the really painful memories. The really painful memories are like the sediments that just set on the bottom of the cup, right? They're always there. But you typically got to stir pretty good to get those to come up. And that's what your trauma memories are in your brainstem. And they're all fragmented. They're all incongruent. And so you don't realize it. It's all unconscious. So your amygdala starts to stir your brainstem, and the higher that stress gets. Now, for some of us, if that stress gets too high and those sediments get stirred up, that trauma gets stirred up, forget it. We're not going to be able to choose taking those deep breaths. We may try, but typically the trauma and the emotion and the pain that we've experienced that stirred up takes over. And when that takes over, it's kind of a runaway freight train until it just loses steam. Something eventually happens to cause it to break. It loses steam. That's what happens when we become stressed. When we become stressed, we immediately take the path of fear. Immediately. It's natural. It's automatic. It's what we do in that small space. We have a small gap between that reaction and then that choice. So there's a small place between a reaction and then the choice. See, we're making in the gap is where we make the choice. In the gap. And so it's in the gap. And that's why I encourage you to spend so much time working on your breathing, becoming more mindful, becoming more conscious, so that when you hit that gap, you can say, oh, I want to slow this train down. I want to get out of this environment. I don't want to do this right now. You see your child acting out. You get stressed. They're scared. They're acting out. Then it encourages you to get stressed, encourages you to get scared, and then it invites you to act out. So you got to get in the gap, feel the gap. I'm in the gap. I'm not feeling good. If I stay here and if I start talking to my child right now, it's going to get difficult. Or if I raise my voice, he's going to get more triggered. I'm going to get more triggered. I'm going to take a deep breath. I'm going to calm myself down. I'm going to remove myself from the environment. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to get quiet. I'm going to sit down. And that's when I start to shift over to love. When I get in the gap and I start to pay more and more attention to myself, and I start to get more and more conscious of the challenges that I have, and I get in the gap, that's when I make a choice. I make a choice to not follow the path of fear, but instead I switch over to love. Now remember, love, which is triggered by the hormone oxytocin, is a learned experience, right? It's a learned experience in our brain. Because we need oxytocin to override that stress. But if you haven't had someone to consistently, nurturingly, predictably give you that oxytocin experience, then it doesn't show up when you get stressed. And so you need that over and over and over again. You need that eye contact. You need that touch. You need that laugh. You need that good food. You need that exercise. You need that deep breathing. You need those candles. You need to go buy some shoes every now and then. You get that oxytocin feeling, right? But ultimately, you want to get that in relationship. You get that in relationship is what turns it on the most in your brain, that 20-second hug, right? But what you also have to understand about love is that it's everywhere. It exists. Love exists. The entire world, the universe is comprised of love. Love is around us all the time. All this space around me right now, the space around you right now, the space between us, that is love. That is love, right? And it's hard to even think about trying to define what love is or trying to prove what love is. But love is this space. And in any given moment, we can all choose to move into the space of love. In any given moment. I mean, you can be furious. And in your brain, if you can just turn it, you can move into love. We all have that ability, and it's not just the ability, it's our ability to get out of fear. That's what our struggle is. It is not, we don't have to make love happen. We don't create love. Love is already there. It already exists. It's our ability to get out of fear that makes the difference. Let me say that again. Love exists. Love already exists. It is our ability or lack of ability to get out of fear and into love and into the presence of love that allows us to be loving and to feel love and to give love. Love is always there. You could be in a home full of stress right now. Your home could be completely stressed out. You could be completely overwhelmed, but there is love all around you. It is all around you. You can walk outside, take a deep breath. Love is just sitting there waiting for you. It's always sitting there waiting for you. And when you choose love, and you hear me saying that all the time, when you choose love, it opens up possibilities. See, fear says fix it. Love says create the environment. Maintain the relationships to allow it to fix itself. Love is all about relationship. Fear is all about control. So when we're operating at the stress model level, and because we're fundamentally challenging fear all the time, stress and fear, and that's I want you to see it. I want you to see the stress and the fear. I want you to see the stress and the fear that drive the behavior. Stop focusing on the behavior. Stop focusing on the behavior. Focus on the stress and the fear. It's the stress and the fear. That's where the breakthrough comes in. The stress and the fear. So there are only two primary emotions, love and fear. And we all have a choice. We all have a choice. In any given moment, we can continue to ride the freight train of fear, stress, and fear, and we just ride it right down the hill. Or we can stop and we can take some deep breaths and we can slow ourselves down and we can choose love. And we are literally just stepping out of fear into love. That's all you're doing. You're stepping out of fear into love. You're just making a choice in that moment. And we all have the ability to do that. I've got something very exciting coming up for you guys. I'm not going to release it until Monday. But if you noticed in the title of the episode this evening, I said there's a red pill and a blue pill. Which would you take? Some of you may get that reference. So something very exciting coming up. You're going to have to be ready to make a move and be ready to see something different. So God bless each and every one of you. Enjoy your Friday night. I want you to party like we're past 1999, aren't we? Let's party like it's 2099. How's that? Send up a little good tiding and prayer to Prince. Let's party like it's 2099. Not really. Just partying means probably going to bed at 9 o'clock, to be honest with you. and have a good night's rest, and just enjoy your weekend and enjoy your children, and just try to find joy where there's been stress, and where you see stress and fear, try to replace it with joy and happiness and peace and love. God bless each and every one of you. Big Papa loves you, and I'll see you tomorrow.